Thank you for tuning in to watch this video about preparing for virtual interviews. We're going to discuss some tips on how to interview, especially through Zoom or through any other online platform, so that you're able to be successful as you speak with employers or other potential interviewers. So let's get started, and we're going to begin by talking about virtual spaces. So, a couple things to keep in mind when you are in a virtual space, thinking about keeping it quiet, who might be in your space or your home that may be someone that you need to let know that you have an interview, or if you do have pets or anyone else who might be intrusive to an interview, trying to make sure you're able to either find a different space or make sure that those pets or other individuals are able to remain quiet in another room. Think about using solid backgrounds. If you're able to find a plain wall or something simple behind you, that can be a helpful way to keep distractions at a minimum. Make sure that you're able to center yourself on the screen. It's great to make sure that you can practice a video interview first before doing one with an employer, a graduate school representative, or whoever else may be interviewing you. So make sure that your background is solid, it's quiet, and that you're able to center yourself. You may also consider recording a video so that you can see exactly what the employer sees. It's also important to have good lighting, so avoid having a window or any kind of light directly behind you or to the side of you, because that can make you look like a shadow in certain places on your face. So make sure that you do have good lighting, maybe putting a light behind your laptop so it's directly on your face and they're able to see you really well. Again, this is something you can record yourself in advance to see what the lighting looks like for that employer or that interviewer. It's great to make sure all of your equipment is ready to go. I'd recommend testing your laptop's video and sound in advance, and make sure that you have another device as a backup option. It could be a phone. Make sure that you download the appropriate technology in advance if that's your technology that you're going to use. Or it could be another laptop or anything like that. It's great to practice with a friend on the software or technology that you're going to use for the interview in advance. That can be helpful to work out any kinks or see if you have any issues with that technology. And it's great to make sure that you test your mic or use something with an external mic that picks up your voice really well. It's often difficult to tell this when you're just speaking into a device, but if you're able to record it and listen or have a friend listen, that can help you to see if that microphone is actually working well. And then make sure that you do turn off any pop-ups or alerts on your device so that it's not distracting you and so that your interviewer doesn't hear or see any of those pop-ups. A great thing to do is just think about what space would be best for you. Where can you hold virtual meetings or interviews that's quiet, where you have a solid plain background, and you're able to meet a lot of those requirements. You're welcome to hit pause on the video now and think about what space works for you. And if you can't think of a space, know that the LSU Olin Career Center does have some spaces that are available for students to do a video interview, and that can be a good option, is to give us a call and see if there's a time where you're able to secure one of our rooms. This is a great checklist for the day of your mock interview, regular interview with a graduate admissions representative or an employer, is thinking about things like silencing your phone, keeping only a few necessary things nearby. I'd recommend having some water just in case, and maybe some questions that you want to ask the interviewers if that's applicable. Make sure that you plug in your device. The worst thing that can happen is you see that low battery sign and you're right in the middle of an interview. So make sure that you do plug your device in advance. And then test everything again the day of the interview. If you've already checked, awesome, but do one more run through and make sure your connection, video, audio, platform, device, everything is working properly. And make sure to sign in just a few minutes early. I usually recommend about 5 to 10 minutes. If you've never used it before, definitely give yourself at least 10 minutes so that if anything goes wrong, you have the time to be able to make appropriate adjustments. It's great to prepare what to say. and you don't know exactly what you're going to get asked in an interview, so you're not preparing for exact responses, but you do want to think about some things, such as what are some skills, qualities, or characteristics that are valuable? If you're speaking with someone for a mock interview, talk to them and think about what's important to your industry, to the career that you want to have. Think about your goals, and that can give you some direction on what examples do you need to prepare, what stories do you need to be ready to share that relate to the qualities or skills that are relevant to your field. If it's a specific job, make sure you check the job description. Really do some research on that and highlight things that you see on the job description, different skill sets that they're looking for, different requirements for the role, and make sure that you're able to give examples and stories about how you've been able to show those skills in the past. It's important to review any application materials that you may have submitted and make sure that you refresh on older, valuable experiences that you may have had. Think about and reflect on things that you have on your resume and what are those experiences? How can you share stories about the skills that you built in that role? It's also great to investigate the organization or the company or the graduate program, depending on what type of interview you're doing. Make sure you're looking at their online presence. Tap into your network if you know someone who works there or is at that graduate program. And then you might even consider doing informational interviews where you ask questions to someone who works for that company or is in that graduate program, so you can learn more about what that organization values. So preparing for what to say is important, even though you can't predict each exact question that you're going to be asked. It's also good to just think about some general soft skills. What are strengths you bring to the table? What are the things that you know that you're going to be able to bring for that company or that you really want to highlight for that employer? The STAR method is a really great method to use that helps you keep all of your responses well organized and is really helpful for behavioral questions. Behavioral questions are questions like, tell me about a time when you worked with a team. Questions that ask about past behavior. This is a great way to make sure that you're providing stories and examples. Employers or your interviewer, they really want to hear, how have you done things in the past? And so sharing specific times that you've done things through stories using the STAR method is a very effective way to make sure it's clear to your interviewer the skills that you have and how you've done things in the past. So STAR method, ask this first situation, and this is where you'll be able to give context or background. Maybe you're sharing what class it is that you worked in a team, how many people were on your team. Next, you'll want to talk about the task. This is where you describe the problem or the task that you were given. Perhaps it was a 10-minute presentation for a history class. Next is action. This is where you get to detail how you responded. What exactly did you do and how did you use skills to really make sure that you effectively address the situation? In this situation, you might talk about how you were able to help everyone to pinpoint strengths that they had and then organize and delegate based on those strengths. Maybe you specifically were in charge of reminding everyone of deadlines. Maybe as a group, you also mentioned we. What did we do as a group? So maybe we as a group discussed who would be best suited for certain tasks or what deadlines were most appropriate based on when we needed to give the presentation. Next is going to be results. This is sharing what happened next or what was the end result. So it could be that you were able to give the 10-minute presentation with your 5-person group and received an A on the project. So that's the STAR method. Go ahead and give the STAR method a shot now. Practice answering this question. Tell me about a time when you worked with a team. You can click pause and either speak out loud and say your response or consider writing down some bullet points of how you would respond by using the STAR method to organize your answer. Here's another great practice question. This one looks a little bit different, and you'll notice that the reflection in our STAR method has changed. It's now saying, what did you learn or change? It's great to make sure if you are reflecting when you're responding to a question focused on something more negative, such as a failure, that you talk more about how did you learn or change from this experience. Maybe in our example previously where we talked about a group project, that particular person learned that they may need more accountability measures in place to make sure each group member is contributing and completing things in a timely manner. So maybe for the next time they decided to implement 2 or 3 accountability measures, and they discussed it with the group of what would be the easiest to help keep everyone accountable, rather than just saying, I'll text a quick reminder. So that reflection is really important with this type of question. Go ahead and hit pause and try this one out. Go ahead and think about and say out loud, or you can write it down, a time that you failed. How would you respond to this question? The last thing to think about with virtual interviewing is your nonverbal communication. Make sure that you are able to hold and keep eye contact. Even though we're not in person, one way to do this is by consistently looking into the lens of the camera. It's a lot easier to look up at the screen because that's where the person you're interviewing with is going to be. But for them, it feels like you're looking at them when you look at the lens of the camera. So make sure that you know where that is on your laptop or your device, and that you're looking into that as much as possible throughout the interview. Make sure you're also smiling. Smiling makes a big impact on both your tone of voice. It makes you look interested and engaged. It's really difficult to do sometimes when you're nervous. So it's great to practice this, again, with a friend, maybe videoing yourself, doing some practice interview questions, or doing a mock interview. Make sure you avoid fidgeting. Try to choose a chair that doesn't swivel, because that can make it easier to move around and fidget a little more. And remove anything from your environment that promotes nervous movement, whether it's a pen or jewelry or whatever. Make sure that you remove that. And then try to look engaged by avoiding slouching, finding a chair where you look like you're sitting up, and leaning forward, engaged in the conversation. The last thing to remember is that you still want to dress for success. And for most interviews, you are going to dress with business professional attire rather than business casual. Unless an employer asks for something different, these are good examples to see what does business professional attire look like. A couple of good things to note is sticking with more solid colors. Oftentimes you'll have a blazer, you'll have a suit of some kind, whether that's a pantsuit or a skirt suit, that is up to you. And using these kind of general guidelines, make sure that you do have business professional attire. Last but not least, here's our information at the LSU Olin Career Center. Please feel free to reach out to us if you need to do a mock interview. That is a great way to practice some of the things mentioned in this video. And the easiest way to do that is through our website, Handshake, which is lsu.joinhandshake.com, or you can give our office a call at the number listed. Thank you so much for spending the time to watch this video. We hope that you'll reach out if you need any more information or would like to practice with our office through a mock interview.